for free practice. What's going on? I'm your host, Jay. Wolfpack Performance Hall Podcast, home of the F1 Minute Talk Show, the hottest talk show on the planet. And guess what? You can all rest. Everybody chill. Don't go crazy. It's all right. Red Bull have not made Mercedes look like idiots. It's okay. You can calm down now. I know at first there was some concerns out there that if Adrian Newey takes the slim down side pod and actually makes it work and is 2/10 faster, of course we got to call people at Mercedes some idiots or worse. But that is not the case. No slim down side pods, although slim down inlet, which I am a little bit interested in. I'm interested in this because I'm kind of wondering, like, oh, appreciate it, Mary Benny. I'm kind of wondering, have they done enough? Like, could this be a situation, right? Could this be a situation where just a little small overconfidence may cause you a DNF? Because Red Bull is about due for a DNF, right? Like, it's unrealistic, and it may be realistic. Like, it can happen. I'm just saying it's not normal for a team to go an entire season without a DNF, without some type of failure, whether it be mechanical, whether it be by accident, something that causes this team to go out. Red Bull have not, I don't recall Red Bull having their moment yet. Okay, we know Alpine have had theirs. Mercedes have had theirs with Russell with the FOD out. Ferrari definitely have had theirs. Take your pick. Haas have had theirs with the Ferrari power unit failure. What else we got? McLaren had theirs with Piastri and the steering. Williams had theirs by Logan just running up the back of people, causing those situations. And Mercedes is just like AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri had theirs with Nick DeVries. When is Red Bull's coming, right? It happens at some point of the season, but is it going to happen at a track where Mercedes is performing well and either Lewis or Russell get a race win? I don't know. But I'm wondering if this change may be the ignition that is going to cause that DNF. I'm not concerned, but I'm a little bit interested to know if you slim down the inlet that much. Have you done enough research? I mean, I would imagine they've done that because that's what they do, that you're bringing in enough airflow there. I don't know, but let's take a look at some of these updates. No slim down side pod. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. Let's go big screen. All right. So right here, we can see the variations from the launch to Azerbaijan all the way up into Hungary. You can clearly see that inlet over time does change, and not only change, it gets smaller and smaller. The surface area gets smaller, thinner from top to bottom. If you look at that is considerably a lot more thin, although they add a little bit more width. I don't know if that width is compensating for the amount of distance they've closed up from top to bottom of the inlet. But I will tell you this, they have done some pretty interesting things with the inlet tray. I call it a tray. And it's the surface that pretty much is directing that air that's going to go underneath the undercut and the air that's going to come into the inlet. They've done some very interesting things there that I would like to see this in a wind tunnel to just see how the air flows over there. And I'm pretty sure Red Bull have been pretty good about running flow viz when they make these changes. So I'm going to be really interested in free practice to see if they run flow viz, just to see the pattern of flow viz over this area, to see if it's really consistent, or does it get blotchy, or do we have a lot of gap spots? I want to see that. So like I said, as you can see there, progress from the launch to Azerbaijan to Hungary. Very different there on the inlet, especially. And even if you look where you see that remove, we would call it remove before flight tag, but I'm pretty sure that says something else. That remove tag at Azerbaijan, if you look in that area right there in Hungary, that is definitely different. That downward area coming where the airflow will come beyond the wishbones and the push rod. All of that itself is also there. I really wanted to see that from a side profile section as well. So then if we go here, we can really get an idea of how much that's changed by these outline drawings here. And also the side of the inlet right here also bulging, a bit more round. I'm guessing they definitely, even they shrunk it up, pushed it out just a tad. You definitely want to make sure you're conditioning that airflow. I'm going to hope that I will to make a list of updates from all the teams. Hopefully I can get that. 083, that's a Ferrari inlet that Red Bull are copying. Very good point. You got them. God damn it, man. You drove home a point before I got to it. I was leading into it. I was going to get there, but 083 is right. This is a Ferrari like S inlet. Okay. Ferrari, the first team. And Ferrari side pods have been misused and abused. Like a lot of people, a lot of teams have taken from Ferrari side pods. But yes, this inlet, this slit, very Ferrari reminiscent. Okay. Thank you, 083. That's why you're one of the most recent VIP members doing stuff like that. Getting there before I get there. I like it. So let's go to this next image right here. Just looking at the rear back portion of the side pod down low, I didn't put my arrows here, but I wanted to highlight a change, which I think I did on another slide. Now, if you look at the top variation of this side pod, they to me lost a bit of the roundness. Okay. Not only that, but it is a bit more surface area here. And if you look between the L and I think that is the rocket sign, the rocket logo. If you look between there's a nice little, it's not a water slide. They haven't done a water slide. But if you really pay attention from the louvers going back, you can see that nice drop off. It's just like it is a slide. It's just not a curved out slide. It's like a flat one where you go to one of the little farm pumpkin ranges and they got like the slide that goes down, it's just metal and you just get on a haystack and ride down. It's not a traditional water slide in the sense which we know it now from Alpine, Aston Martin, even McLaren. It's not that, not even Williams. It's not that, but it still does. If you pay attention, it still does have that motion where it's coming down and just kind of shedding that airflow off. All right. Also going to here, from the backside, you could get a real good idea of the width of that top surface area of that side pod. Now, to me, it is a bit more surface area up top than on the side. And if you look at that first arrow up by the front tire coming back next to the louvers, that cut right there, which they already had that, like Red Bull had that initially anyway already. It just is more pronounced here now. It's more pronounced here. And I'm thinking it's more pronounced because of the surface area they added to that side pod. So it's going to be also interesting to see if they put flow viz in that area and what that also will look like. All right. So then another thing that we're going to look into is right here. And this is where I point out that underside of the side pod, as well as more surface area here above the O and the R. Then we get to this area. Now, this rear area, this was at the British GP. Okay. This is at the British GP. There are some very subtle differences here to me that I have noticed. Now, if you look right here to Hungary, just check that out. A little bit more back here, dropping down between these two arrows where you see the wishbone coming into the rear. That area is different. All right. It's not, it's like they taken some material out of that right here, kind of getting a little bit more flow. And even outside of that, look at that what do I want to call it? It's like a miniature water slide within the floor edge right here. They're doing a lot of things right here with the floor edge, the trailing edge before it goes to the brake duct. Like there are a lot of changes, a lot of little small changes, not a lot of big changes, but little small changes to accompany these new side pods. Now you have to remember when you change side pods, you do also change the floor. Okay, so you're also changing that floor area. That has to go along with it. You need the floor to accompany that side pod, especially to a degree. If it's not like an entire big drastic change, there's going to be a subtle change there. You're changing airflow over the side pod. You can't, unless you develop that side pod to match perfectly with that floor and all that airflow is going to work, then you're going to have situations here, which Red Bull will probably find out what they have going on when they actually run flow viz, because that's a very good visual check to get it like in real time to try to see how the air is moving across these two bodies and how these two bodies are working together. So I imagine that we will see flow viz and free practice the free practice session. Now, this is the very interesting part to me. This is the before image of that inlet, what I call the tray table going into the inlet of the side pod. Look at this very firmly, the blue, the pink, and the yellow arrows. Now look at Hungary. Tremendously indifferent. Like, I know it's like one area, but that is a tremendous change. Just look at that. So on the blue area, look at that bulge, look at the side area of this. Now we're going to look at the blue area here. Look at how they change that more curve in, as almost as the leading edge of the inlet kind of flares out. All right. It's like it kind of rolls out. It's rolling out some more there, versus if you look right here and we go into the before picture, it's not so much rolled out. All right, let's roll out. Now they've opened it up. So they've thinned it out, but they've kind of curled that side inlet out a little bit to gather a little bit more air. Now let's look at also the pink arrow is indicating that. Just look at how that kind of falls away, opening up just a bit more to get that airflow down into the inlet. And then the most profound part to me is how they straightened out that edge. Now, before it was all pretty much just boom straight. Now they have more, they got two angles there. Okay, they come out, then they cut it back like a 45-degree angle right there on that inlet. This is a very different design when it comes to the inlet side pod. So, and also the edge, the leading edge is more broad. Look at the leading edge here, very thin. All right, it's very thin on the leading edge there, very thin. Okay, so not only did the inlet get thinner, but if you look at this leading edge, it was thin, and the leading edge on the new variation is actually a bit more broad. So look at the shoulder on this leading edge now. All right, it's a bit more broad, especially if you see it from the front. But if you really pay attention, you can kind of see how it's just not thin, and it goes back. There's a little hump there. So I think I got a front picture of that'll show you that the thinness of that there compared to the broadness of it now, even though the inlet is more slit, is very different. Fat Boy Wonder looks like a Red Bull Merc Ferrari mashup. It does look like a composition of many. All right, it does definitely look like that. There are definitely some hints, but we already knew this, right? We saw Adrian Newey walking about the grid, taking notes in his red folder, so we kind of knew already that he was taking bits and pieces that he liked, and this is what he's come up with. Now, whether this is going to work and whether Perez can get it to work or not is another story. And we're going to see very soon. Derwin Hill, my brother, says, question for you, Jay, or anyone. Do F1 teams change out the floor of the cars as much as they change the front and rear wings to suit different tracks? No. No, they do not change their floors as often as rear and front wings change, depending on if they're going to run more drag or less drag. The floors don't change out at a high rate, at high of a rate as front wings or rear wings. So no, they don't. Good question though. Very good question. So here we go right here. We'll also look at this. So like I said, right here, you got your comparisons between all three, the launch, Azerbaijan, and Hungary. Then you come right here. Here's that picture where I can tell you. Now you can see how it got thin, but it's a lot more broad right here. And if you look down here, closer to the BYBT logo where that red stripe is, look at how thinner that inlet tray is. And then look up top, even though the inlet got thinner, that shoulder got more broad where that red line is indicating the shape of the inlet of the side pod. You could tell that bottom portion definitely more broad than it was before. And of course, looking here, listen. I'm just gonna be honest. I've said it all. I've said it plenty of times, and people don't listen to me. I actually do like the RB19. I like the RB19. To me, is a very good looking car. I've always said that. I stand by that. Definitely, its side pod design. I've also liked that. It wasn't my favorite out of all three. Like when the launch first happened. Of course, Mercedes, Ferrari, because they were different. I like different. All right. And then following that, I think I really went with it was Red Bull. But over the course of time, Red Bull overall the RB19 is a very good looking car, and it's performing very well. And we're gonna see what can Perez do with this car. What does Perez do? Like there are a lot of things for us to look forward to this weekend to try to get some answers. Can Perez improve? Will he improve with the new variation of these updates? Will he up his position in qualifying and the race? Is he going to struggle with this new variation of this car, or will he succeed? Have they made some changes that maybe the car's characteristics actually favor Perez driving style a little bit more? I don't think Max will have a problem either way. Like we say, we know Max is their golden boy. They're not going to try to do anything that's going to derail him. So the car's development, I don't think is necessarily very honest when they say it's just about the car getting better. I think honestly, Max influence within the car's development moving forward is a real thing. Perez, not so much. It's kind of like, this is what you got, try to make it work. And we already know Perez is not happy with a front nose happy car. That's not something that he really does well with, but it also speaks to your ability to adapt to different variations and models when you are a driver. That is something that is a good ability to have, the ability to adapt. So Perez is going to need to work on that, and hopefully he can, to make some type of comeback with this season that at this point in time has been pretty lackluster for him. And maybe it's intentional, maybe it's not. Either way it goes, performance is performance, statistics are statistics, and these numbers are the numbers, and numbers right now say Perez is not doing well. But I would like to know how Red Bull fares. So I am definitely going to be tuning in for FP1, FP2 this tomorrow. I'm on it. Like if you're not a free practice person, like you don't like to watch free practice, I don't know why not. Maybe you're not very technical. Maybe you don't do builds. Maybe you don't work with cars. Maybe it's not just interesting to you. But I gotta say, when I see teams make changes to this degree, I always want to really watch free practice to see how that is. We're all going to be looking for this 2/10, right? That was the claim, that supposedly 2/10 is what they have with this new update. Now, if it's more than that, I mean, it's already sayonara, but it's going to be not even tomorrow. Not sayonara tomorrow. It's going to be sayonara another era. Like, I'm just keeping it real. So we will see what this Red Bull does. I've been waiting for them to really do something with their livery. I really would, I want to see if Red Bull's going to do something with this livery, but they don't have to. Like, you can do whatever you want when you're this dominant. Twin, bless you to everyone. How do you think Danny Rick will do well so Yuki could learn from him and Checo better use these new changes to keep this seat? That's one of my questions I have. Can Checo adapt to these new changes, or will these new changes bode well for Checo? That's what I want to know. And I'm still rooting for Yuki, but Danny Rick definitely should be the driver of the day. I mean, if he's not the official driver of the day, he should be the driver of that team this weekend. If he's not, Galactus said he's giving him 3 GPs. Me, I'm looking for something to happen now, but I'm still rooting for Yuki to actually make it happen. I would like to see Yuki outperform Danny Rick, because Yuki has been shat on enough. Yes, I said shat on. He's been shat on enough. And I would like to see Yuki stand up and be like, I'm here to stay. Y'all count me out too many times and I'm not feeling it. So I'm looking for Yuki to kind of make that happen. And we'll see what goes on. And also, does Mercedes improve? This is a track that I think, honestly, the last we heard, they weren't doing so well in low speed turns. So this track is not like an all-out straight monster. There's a lot of turns. I just gotta see, is Mercedes going to have at least another circuit where they can seem dominant? And it's not necessarily a good thing if Mercedes only perform well here and not really perform well anywhere else. It just tells them that their car is limited to certain track specific. Their car is track specific or track type specific, and that's not a good thing to be. You prefer to be more like Mercedes was when they were very dominant throughout the course of many, except for Toto mentioning that the W08, I think it's the 08. I want to say it was the W08 may have been the Diva car, and he was making those comparisons. I think it was 2017 model Mercedes, where he was making those comparisons that the car was very unstable, unpredictable, and pretty much that's kind of what they have now. So they're going to need to work on making a car that's not, listen, Mercedes are so behind on homework. It's not like I could say they just need to make a car that's predictable. That's past due. A car that performs well across majority of the circuits on the calendar, that's past due. A car that actually can be competitive with the top running car, which right now is Red Bull, that's going to be past due next season. It's already past due. It's past due. They went a direction. I don't want to say the wrong direction. I don't want to say the wrong direction because it could have been the right direction just at the wrong time, right? The right direction, and you just didn't know how to extract the performance out of that design. Or maybe it could have been the wrong direction as a design that would never work. But I don't think we saw enough. It's just that they didn't have enough time to get it to work and not lose an ass load of seasons. They had to make a change until they can understand that, or make a change for the better and grasp what's going on now and move forward. I do believe that what we don't see here, matter of fact, where is, let me bring that photo in. I'm going to bring a photo in real quick and let you check out something, because I do think that that's something we should look at real quick. So let me add this photo. When I mean they didn't follow what we are typically used to seeing, let's look at this real quick in big time. So much like you see right here, you have the Aston Martin, the McLaren, and the Alpine, all with those water slides, so-called, quote unquote, but these downwashes. And Red Bull elected not to go even remotely close to this design. All right, they didn't go with this variation. If we didn't see the slim down side pods, I don't think it was far-fetched that we may have considered that Red Bull was going to have a side pod that was kind of going to go in the direction that other teams have gone on since Ferrari, and then from Ferrari, Alpine, from Alpine, Aston Martin, even McLaren, Williams, Mercedes, not so much because it's nowhere near as deep as the groove, but deeper than Red Bull. But Red Bull didn't even really go into that. Although, like I said, when you look from the side of their new side pod design, let me find that. You can see it right there. They pretty much from the louvers going back to that R, you got a dip, then you got a little rise over the O, and then you got a dip as it goes down to the rear of the car. So, you know, a nice wavy kind of slide-esque direction, but not the water slide in which we know it right now, which is these deep gouges in between the engine cover and the side pod right there that you see. We don't see that on the Red Bull. So they haven't even worried about going that direction. It's not something that they think. So I wonder if Adrian Newey thinks that that design is pretty much limited. Maybe he doesn't see a lot of future in that design. And he's like, we're going to stay this direction and just keep improving on this direction until we can't. Because right now we're the most dominant car on the grid and nobody's even close. So why really change it up to join a bunch of cars that are trying to catch us? Because then that's really what he would be doing. He would be joining other teams that are trying to catch them. So why would I think that my design needs that much changing, that I changed so much that I joined the adaptation of other teams that adopted Ferrari's design, and Ferrari even changed their philosophy. Definitely Mercedes changed their philosophy. So I know for a minute we thought like maybe Newey was going to do the slim down side pod and show Mercedes how it was done, but evidently not. Evidently he's smarter than that. And that's why he gets paid the big bucks. And that's why I think he's a GOAT engineer, like, because he does things like he's doing. So hopefully the GOATness continues. The GOATness will be there. Hopefully his performance or his how should I say it? His success continues with this design. So we will see what this new design does no later than tomorrow. Free practice is tomorrow, quali on Saturday, race on Sunday. Let's get it popping. Let's see what goes on. So appreciate you all for joining me for this live in this video, just going over the Red Bull side pod, Red Bull design. I thought a lot of people kind of wonder like, what's it going to look like? What's it going to look like? And now we just want to know, how's it going to perform? Are we going to see 2/10? Will you see more than 2/10? Will we see less than 2/10? And one question I have is, will Red Bull run into overheating issues? That's what I want to see, is if they run into an overheating situation. So we will all have these questions answered this weekend and next weekend. So 083 says the biggest stumbling block for Red Bull is the cost cap, and 2, how well will the Ford engine work in Red? And that is going to be their stumbles. That's where some challenges are going to face Red Bull. The cost cap and the fact you're bringing Ford back. And if it is a real Ford built power unit, you're definitely going to have some issues. So without further ado, big shout out to y'all. Peace and love.